A Doll's House opens on Christmas Eve. Nora Helmer enters her nicely supplied dwelling room, the setting of the entire play, wearing several packages. Torvald Helmer, Nora's husband, comes out of his study whilst he hears her arrive. He greets her playfully and affectionately, however, then chides her for spending so much cash on Christmas gifts. Their communication exhibits that the Helmers have had to be careful with cash for many years, however, that Torvald has currently obtained a brand new position at the financial institution in which he works on the way to afford them a more secure lifestyle. Helene, the maid, broadcasts that the Helmers' dear buddy Dr. Rank has come to go to. On the same time, some other traveler has arrived, this one unknown. To Nora's tremendous marvel, Christine Lind, a former college buddy, comes into the room. The two have not seen each different for years, however Nora mentions having studied that Mrs. Lind's husband handed away a few years earlier. Mrs. Lind tells Nora that once her husband died, she was left and not using a cash and no kids. Nora tells Mrs. Lind about her first years of marriage to Torvald. She explains that they were very negative and both had to paintings lengthy hours. Torvald became ill, she adds, and the couple needed to tour to Italy in order that Torvald could get better. Nora inquires similarly approximately Mrs. Lind's life, and Mrs. Lind explains that for years she had to care for her sick mom and her more youthful brothers. She states that her mom has passed away, though, and that the brothers are too old to want her. In preference to feeling comfort, Mrs. Lind says she feels empty because she has no profession. She hopes that Torvald can be able to help her attain employment. Nora promises to talk to Torvald and then exhibits a first-rate secret to Mrs. Lind. Without Torvald's knowledge, Nora illegally borrowed money for the journey that she and Torvald took to Italy. She informed Torvald that the cash had come from her father. For years, Nora well-known shows she has labored and saved in mystery, slowly repaying the debt, and shortly it'll be fully repaid. Krogstad, a low-level employee on the financial institution in which Torvald works, arrives and proceeds into Torvald's have a look at. Nora reacts uneasily to Krogstad's presence, and Dr. Rank, coming out of the take a look at, says Krogstad is morally ill. As soon as he has completed assembly with Krogstad, Torvald comes into the residing room and says that he can in all likelihood hire Mrs. Lind on the bank. Dr. Rank, Torvald, and Mrs. Lind then go away, leaving Nora through herself. Nora's youngsters go back with their nanny, Anne-Marie, and Nora plays with them till she notices Krogstad's presence inside the room. The two converse, and Krogstad is discovered to be the source of Nora's secret loan. Krogstad states that Torvald wants to hearth him from his role at the bank and alludes to his very own negative reputation. He asks Nora to apply her have an effect on to make sure that his role remains comfy. When she refuses, Krogstad points out that he has in his ownership a contract that consists of Nora's forgery of her father's signature. Krogstad blackmails Nora, threatening to show her crime and to convey disgrace on both Nora and her husband if she does not prevent Torvald from firing him. Krogstad leaves, and whilst Torvald returns, Nora tries to convince him now not to hearth Krogstad, but Torvald will hear nothing of it. He proclaims Krogstad an immoral guy and states that he feels physically sick within the presence of such people. Act 2 opens on the next day, Christmas. Alone, Nora paces her residing room, filled with tension. Mrs. Lind arrives and enables stitch Nora's dress for the ball that Nora may be attending at her associate's domestic the subsequent night time. Nora tells Mrs. Lind that Dr. Rank has a mortal illness that he inherited from his father. Nora's suspicious behavior leads Mrs. Lind to guess that Dr. Rank is the source of Nora's loan. Nora denies Mrs. Lind's charge, but refuses to reveal the source of her misery. Torvald arrives, and Nora again begs him to maintain Krogstad hired on the bank, however again Torvald refuses. Whilst Nora presses him, he admits that Krogstad's moral conduct isn't all that bothers him. He dislikes Krogstad's overly familiar mindset. Torvald and Nora argue until Torvald sends the maid to deliver Krogstad's letter of dismissal. Torvald leaves. Dr. Rank arrives and tells Nora that he is aware of he's close to demise. She attempts to cheer him up and starts off evil to flirt with him. She seems to be getting ready to invite him to intervene on her behalf in her struggle with Torvald. Abruptly, Dr. Rank exhibits to Nora that he's in love with her. In mild of this revelation, Nora refuses to ask Dr. Rank for whatever. Once Dr. Rank leaves, Krogstad arrives and demands an cause of his dismissal. He wishes respectability and has modified the phrases of the blackmail. He now insists to Nora that no longer most effective, that he be rehired at the bank, however, that he be rehired in a higher position. He then places a letter detailing Nora's debt and forgery in the Helmer's letterbox. In a panic, Nora tells Mrs. Lind the whole thing, and Mrs. Lind instructs Nora to put off Torvald from beginning the letter as long as possible whilst she goes to speak with Krogstad. On the way to distract Torvald from the letterbox, Nora starts to exercise the tarantella she will carry out at that evening's dress celebration. In her agitated emotional kingdom, she dances wildly and violently, displeasing Torvald. Nora manages to make Torvald promise now not to open his mail until after she plays at the party. Mrs. Lind soon returns and says that she has left Krogstad a note, but that he may be long gone till the following evening. The following night time, because the dress birthday party takes area upstairs, Krogstad meets Mrs. Lind within the Helmers' residing room. Their verbal exchange famous that the two had as soon as deeply in love, but Mrs. Lind left Krogstad for a wealthier guy who could enable her to help her circle of relatives. She tells Krogstad that now that she is freed from her personal familial obligations and wishes to be with Krogstad and take care of his children. Krogstad is extremely joyful and says he's going to call for his letter lower back earlier than Torvald can examine it and research Nora's secret. Mrs. Lind, but, insists he leave the letter, due to the fact she believes both Torvald and Nora could be better off as soon as the truth has been discovered. Quickly after Krogstad's departure, Nora and Torvald enter, lower back from the dress ball. After pronouncing goodnight to Mrs. Lind, Torvald tells Nora how acceptable she seemed as she danced. Dr. Rank, who was additionally on the birthday party and has come to say goodnight, promptly interrupts Torvald's advances on Nora. After Dr. Rank leaves, Torvald unearths in his letterbox 2 of Dr. Rank's traveling playing cards, every with a black pass above the call. Nora knows Dr. Rank's playing cards constitute his declaration that he'll soon die, and he or she informs Torvald of this fact. She then insists that Torvald read Krogstad's letter. Torvald reads the letter and is outraged. He calls Nora a hypocrite and a liar and complains that she has ruined his happiness. He proclaims that she will now not be allowed to elevate their youngsters. Helene then brings in a letter. Torvald opens it and discovers that Krogstad has backed Nora's agreement, which incorporates the forged signature. Thrilled, Torvald tries to disregard his past insults, however his harsh words have caused something in Nora. She proclaims that notwithstanding their 8 years of marriage, they do not apprehend one another. Torvald, Nora asserts, has treated her like a doll, to be performed with and well known. She decides to leave Torvald, asserting that she should make sense of herself and the whole thing around her. She walks out, slamming the door behind her.